The notification light on my phone blinked. A soft, pulsating blue. I was sitting on the floor of my new apartment, a penthouse loft with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. I had a slice of artisan pepperoni pizza in one hand and a glass of aged scotch in the other. For the first time in nearly a decade, the only sound in my world was the hum of the HVAC system and the distant traffic 10 stories down. I picked up the phone. It was Facebook. My mother, Linda, had tagged me in a post. Now, you have to understand, my mother never tagged me in anything. Not on my birthday, not when I graduated, not when I won awards. So, curiosity got the better of me. I unlocked the screen and opened the app. The photo was high definition. It was a picture of my old bedroom door, thrown wide open to reveal a vacuumed, empty carpet. The caption read, "The nest is finally empty. The 32-year-old parasite has finally detached. No more cooking meals for a grown man. No more washing his underwear. Maybe now Gerald and I can actually enjoy our golden years without the burden." I stared at it. I didn't feel a spike of adrenaline. I didn't feel the hot flush of embarrassment. I felt a cold, clinical fascination. I refreshed the page. The post had been up for 45 minutes. It already had 1,300 likes. Then came the comments. It was like a shark-feeding frenzy. My Aunt Karen, a woman who hadn't worked a day since 1998, commented, "About time." I still remember when he cried at 25 because that coffee shop rejected his application. Still unemployed, I assume? God bless you for your patience. Linda, my father, Gerald, decided to join the pile-on. He posted a photo in the comments. It was a side-by-side comparison. On the left, my room as it was yesterday. On the right, a 3D rendering of a poker table and a wet bar. He wrote, "Asterisk, from a loser's den to a king's lounge. Can't wait to get the smell of failure out of the carpet." Asterisk, my younger sister, Tiffany, tagged 4 of her sorority friends. Asterisk, ladies, take note. This is why we don't date gamers. Failure to launch is a real disease. Asterisk, and then the one that actually stung just for a microsecond. Sarah, my ex-girlfriend. We had broken up 8 months ago. She liked the post and commented, "Asterisk, dodge a bullet there. So glad you guys got your house back. You deserve peace." Asterisk, there were 42 comments in total. All of them roasting me. All of them public. All of them using my full legal name. I took a sip of the scotch. It burned pleasantly on the way down. Most people would have raged. They would have typed out a furious, all-caps paragraph defending themselves. They would have called their mom screaming. They would have engaged in the drama. I did none of that. I carefully took a screenshot of the main post. Then, I expanded the comment section. I screenshot every single comment. I made sure to capture the timestamps and the names. I opened my cloud drive, created a folder named Evidence, and uploaded everything. Then, I did something they probably found confusing. I liked every single comment. I liked Aunt Karen's jab about my unemployment. I liked my dad's King's Lounge mock-up. I liked Tiffany's dating advice. I liked Sarah's dodge a bullet remark. I wanted them to see the notification. Lucas likes your comment. I wanted them to know I had seen it. I wanted them to know I was watching. Then, I put the phone face down on my quartz countertop. I finished my pizza. I looked out at the city lights. I decided to wait. I would give them exactly 14 days. 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks? Because in my state, that's the legal time frame required for what I was about to do? No, that's a myth. I waited 2 weeks because I wanted them to settle. I wanted them to feel safe. I wanted them to start buying paint for the King's Lounge. I wanted the dopamine hit of their online validation to peak before I burned their reality to the ground. You see, the story they told on Facebook, the narrative of the freeloading son and the saintly parents, was a lie. But to explain why we have to go back, we have to talk about the will. My grandmother, Eleanor, was the only person in my bloodline who understood the value of $1. She was a woman of iron will and sharp intellect. She passed away when I was 24. My father, Gerald, was her only son. He spent his entire life waiting for her to die. That sounds harsh, doesn't it? But it's the truth. He treated her death not as a tragedy, but as a payday. He had been borrowing money from her for 20 years. Loans for business ideas that never launched. Loans for cars he couldn't afford. He never paid back a dime. When the family gathered in the lawyer's office for the reading of the will, my parents were practically giddy. They were already talking about refinancing the Victorian house they had lived in with Nana Eleanor for the last 15 years. They treated it like it was already theirs. The lawyer, Mr. Thompson, was a stern man with wire-rimmed glasses. He looked at my father with a mixture of pity and disdain. Regarding the primary residence at 42 Oakwood Drive, Mr. Thompson read, his voice monotone. Eleanor was very specific. My dad leaned forward, grinning. Go on. She has left the property in its entirety, including all furnishings in the land, to her grandson Lucas. The room went silent. The kind of silence where you can hear the air conditioning hum. What? My dad whispered. Furthermore, Mr. Thompson continued, Eleanor has stipulated that Lucas is to be the sole executor of his estate. She writes, my son Gerald has proven time and again that he cannot manage assets. I will not have my home sold to pay for his gambling debts. I leave the house to Lucas, with the condition that he allows his parents to reside there, should they choose, as long as the property remains in the family name. My mother gasped, this is a mistake. Lucas is a child. He works at a gas station. I work in IT, Mom. I had said, quietly from the corner. Same thing, she snapped. My dad turned on me. You manipulated her. You poisoned her mind against me when you went to visit her at the hospital. I visited her because she was dying. Dad, you visited her to ask for a check. The lawyer cleared his throat. The deed has already been transferred. Lucas is the legal owner. The mortgage was paid off by Eleanor 3 years ago. The house is free and clear. That day, in the parking lot, my father cornered me. He put his heavy hand on my shoulder. The anger in his eyes was replaced by a slippery, manipulative charm. Look, son, he said, this is just a formality. Grandma was confused at the end. We all know I'm the head of the household. The house is mine. You just have your name on the paper for tax reasons. We'll handle everything. You just stay in your room and keep doing your computer stuff. I was 24. I was non-confrontational. I had been raised to seek their approval. So I nodded. Okay, Dad. That was my first mistake. For the next 8 years, I lived in my childhood bedroom. My parents treated the house as their own. When the roof needed patching, Dad decided who to hire, but he made me write the check from the house fund. When they wanted to repaint the living room, they didn't ask my permission. They just did it. But the worst part was the rent. A month after the funeral, Dad sat me down. Lucas, now that you're living here as an adult, you need to contribute. It's part of being a man. But Dad, I said, I own the house. There's no mortgage. There are taxes, he yelled. There's insurance. There's food. You think electricity is free? You pay me $400 a month for rent and board, or you can get out. I paid it every month on the 1st for 8 years. That is $38,400. I paid nearly 40 grand to live in a single room in a house I held the deed to. And let's address the unemployed comment. The incident Aunt Karen mentioned, the coffee shop rejection, that happened. I was 25. I was bored. I applied for a barista job just to get out of the house and talk to humans. I didn't get it because I was overqualified. My mom found a rejection letter in the trash, showed it to the whole family at Thanksgiving, and laughed until she cried. He can't even pour coffee, she shrieked. What they didn't know, what I never told them because they never listened, was that I wasn't unemployed. I was a freelance full-stack developer. By the time I was 26, I had incorporated my own business. I was building back-end architecture for mid-sized logistics companies. I worked from my bedroom. I wore noise-canceling headphones to block out the sound of my mom complaining about feeding a grown man. I made 6 figures. I saved 80% of my income. I had excellent credit. I had a robust investment portfolio. But to them, Because I didn't put on a tie and drive to a cubicle. I was playing on the computer. When I tried to tell Dad I landed a big contract, he'd wave me off. That's nice, Lucas. Hey, the lawn needs mowing. Earn your keep. My sister, Tiffany, told her friends I was probably dealing drugs online because nobody makes money sitting in their underwear. I let them believe it. It was easier than explaining APIs and server migration to people who still type Google into the Facebook status bar. Then came the girlfriend, Sarah. We dated for 2 years. She broke up with me because she couldn't handle the stigma of dating a guy who lived with his parents. It's just embarrassing, Lucas, she told me at dinner. My friends ask what you do, and I have to say you work from home in your childhood bedroom. You're 30. It's pathetic. I need a man with ambition. I tried to tell her, Sarah, I own the house. I have savings. I can buy us a place tomorrow. She rolled her eyes. Stop lying to try and keep me. If you had money, we wouldn't be eating at Olive Garden. We were eating at Olive Garden because she wanted breadsticks. She dumped me, and apparently, she stayed friends with my sister just to mock me. So, when I finally moved out, it was a precision strike. I bought the condo in cash. I hired luxury movers. I packed my life in 4 hours while they were at work. I left the house. I left the key on the kitchen counter. I didn't say goodbye. I just texted Dad, asterisk, I'm out. Keys on the counter. Asterisk. I thought that was the end of it. I thought we would just drift apart. But then they posted that picture. They called me a parasite. They called me a leech. After I paid them rent to live in my own house. That was the line. Day 15. The 2-week waiting period was over. It was a Tuesday. I checked the tracking number on my laptop. Stern delivered 10:42 a.m. Signed for by Gerald, asterisk. I sat back and waited. The package I sent wasn't a bomb. It was worse. It was paperwork. I had hired a high-end real estate attorney to draft the documents. At 11 a.m., my phone started ringing. Dad. I ignored it. Dad. Ignored. Mom. Ignored. Tiffany. Ignored. By 1 p.m., I had 30 missed calls and 15 texts. Dad. What the hell is this? Dad, call me right now. Mom. Lucas. Please, your father is having chest pains. Pick up. Tiffany. You're a psychopath. I waited until 5 p.m. Then, I sat down on my computer and replied to my father via email. Subject, regarding tenancy at 42 Oakwood Drive. Father, I am currently working and cannot take personal calls. Please direct all questions regarding the lease agreement to my email. Regards, Lucas. Asterisk, the document I sent them was simple. It was a formal notification of ownership, reminding them that the property at 42 Oakwood Drive was solely mine. Attached was a lease agreement. I had researched the market rates. A 4-bedroom Victorian in that neighborhood, with a large yard and garage, rented for roughly $3,200 a month. I set their rent at $3,000. The lease stipulated a month-to-month tenancy. It required security deposit of 2 months' rent. It outlined strict rules regarding maintenance and alterations to the property. No man caves without written approval. And the kicker, if the lease was not signed and returned within 30 days, they were to vacate the premises. At 6 p.m., I finally answered the phone. It was Dad. You think you're funny? He screamed. The vein in his neck must have been popping. You think you can charge me rent? In my house. It's not your house, Dad. I said calmly. It's mine. You know this. Mr. Thompson explained it 8 years ago. I raised you. I put clothes on your back. And I paid you $38,000 in rent over the last 8 years to live in a single room, I countered. Consider that my repayment for the diapers. We can't afford $3,000 a month, he yelled. You know what I make of the plant. That sounds like a financial planning issue, not a landlord issue. I said, market rate is $3,200. I gave you a family discount. I'm not signing this. Then you have 30 days to vacate, I said. Read the clause on page 4. You can't evict us. We have rights. We've lived here for 20 years. And you've lived there rent-free for the last 8, I said. You have squatter's rights at best. But since you acknowledge my ownership by accepting my rent payments all these years, you establish a landlord-tenant relationship. My lawyer is very excited to explain that to a judge. Mom is crying, Lucas. She's devastated. How can you do this to your mother? Mom posted on Facebook that I was a parasite. I said, she got 1,300 likes. Tell her to print those likes out and use them to pay the electric bill. I hung up. The next week was a barrage of emotional manipulation. Aunt Karen called. Lucas, you need to stop this. Your parents are family. Did you see the comment you wrote, Aunt Karen? I asked. That was a joke. My eviction notice isn't. I replied. Tiffany showed up at my building. She tried to get past the concierge. I need to see my brother, she screamed. I buzzed down to the desk. I don't have a sister. Please ask her to leave or call the police. Watching her get escorted out on the security monitor was the highlight of my week. Then things got interesting. My dad tried to bargain. He sent me an email proposing he pay $500 a month. I replied, asterisk rejected. The price is $3,000. Asterisk. He offered to mow the lawn in exchange for reduced rent. I replied, asterisk rejected. I have a landscaping service lined up. Asterisk. Then the skeleton in the closet fell out. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Is this Lucas? A gruff voice asked. Speaking. This is Bob from the warehouse. I work with your dad. Okay. How can I help you, Bob? Well, look, this is awkward. But Gerald borrowed $5,000 from me about 6 months ago. Said he needed it for house repairs. He told me his son, that's you, was coming into a big inheritance or a big tech deal and would pay it off. I paused. My blood ran cold. Not out of fear, but out of disgust. Bob, I said, my father lied to you. Excuse me? I am not paying his debts. I never agreed to this. Did you get anything in writing? Well, no. It was a handshake. He said you were partners. We are not partners. I am his landlord. And frankly, he's about to be evicted. If I were you, I'd go to HR. Bob swore loudly and hung up. 2 days later, Mom called me, sobbing. Your father's been suspended, she wailed. Bob went to the boss. They're investigating him for soliciting loans from subordinates. He might lose his pension. Well, I said, pour myself another coffee. Actions meet consequences. You have to help us. We have no money. We have $40,000 in credit card debt. I blinked. You have what? We lived a little beyond our means, she sniffled. We thought since the house was paid off, we could spend more. We took trips. We bought the boat. You bought a boat? I asked, incredulous. You charged me rent so you could buy a boat? We deserved a life, Lucas. And now you have one, I said. A life of debt. The 30-day deadline approached. They hadn't signed the lease. They hadn't packed boxes. They were in deep denial. They thought I would cave. They thought the unbreakable bond of family would make me blink. They forgot that they had severed that bond when they decided to humiliate me for internet points. I sent one final warning email on day 28. Asterisk to the tenants of 42 Oakwood. You have not returned the signed lease. Therefore, your tenancy is terminated effective immediately following the 30th. Furthermore, please be advised that all utilities currently in my name, electric, gas, water, internet, will be disconnected at 12:01 a.m. on the 1st. I suggest you open your own accounts immediately. Asterisk. They didn't. Dad texted me. Asterisk. You wouldn't dare. Asterisk. The night of the deadline, I stayed up. I wasn't at the house. Obviously. I was in my condo. But I watched the clock. 11:58 p.m. 11:59 p.m. 12 a.m. I imagined it. The hum of the refrigerator dying. The router lights blinking out. The sudden, oppressive silence of a house without power. At 6:15 a.m., the sun rose. And my phone rang. Dad, the power is out, he screamed. The water isn't working. Did you open your own accounts? I asked pleasantly. They want a deposit. The electric company wants $400 because our credit is shot. Sounds like you need $400. I said, maybe you can sell the boat. All the food in the fridge will spoil. Mom yelled from the background. You should have thought about that before you called me a leech. I said. The next 3 days were a siege. They stayed in the house. No power. No water. They were charging their phones in the car. They were showering at the gym. They tried to shame me on Facebook again. Mom posted, my own son has turned off the heat on his elderly parents. Help! But this time I was ready. I replied to her post publicly. I attached the screenshots of their original post mocking me. I attached a redacted copy of the lease offer showing I gave them a chance. I attached a screenshot of the utility transfer request I sent them weeks ago. I wrote, asterisk, I offered you a lease. You refused. I gave you notice to transfer utilities. You refused. You collected $38,000 rent from me while I lived in a house I owned. I am not turning off the heat. I am simply no longer paying your bills. You are adults. Act like it. Asterisk. The tide turned. The comments section, which had previously mocked me, now turned on them. Wait, he owns the house? You charge him rent to live in his own property? Lady, you are the leech. Mom deleted the post an hour later. On day 35, I filed the formal eviction paperwork with the county court. Because they had no lease and had been given proper notice, the judge granted it quickly. Dad tried to represent himself in court. He showed up wearing a suit that was too tight, trying to charm the judge. Your Honor, he said, this is a family dispute. My son is having a tantrum. The judge looked at the deed. He looked at the notices. Mr. Miller, the judge said to my father, the law does not care about your family dynamics. You are trespassing. You have 7 days to vacate, or the sheriff will remove you. The day the sheriff was scheduled to arrive, they finally moved. They rented a U-Haul. They didn't have anywhere to go, really. They ended up moving into a 2-bedroom apartment in a bad part town, the only place that would take them with their credit score and eviction record. I didn't go to the house while they were moving. I sent a representative. My rep told me it was ugly. There was screaming. Tiffany tried to steal the chandelier, which was a fixture and legally mine. My dad tried to take the refrigerator, also mine. My rep stopped them. When they were gone, I went into the house. It was eerie. The smell of my childhood was there, lemon polish and stale cigarettes. They had left it a mess. There was trash on the floors. Someone, probably Tiffany, had poured wine on the carpet in the living room. Dad had punched a hole in the drywall of the man cave. I walked through the empty rooms. I went to my old bedroom, the 4 walls that had been my prison and my sanctuary. I stood in the center of the room. I thought about the 14-year-old me who was afraid to speak up. I thought about the 25-year-old me who was mocked for a rejection letter. I felt nothing, no sadness, no joy. Just a clean, cool sensation of a transaction completed. I hired a contractor to fix the drywall and replace the carpets. I had the house painted a neutral gray. I listed it on the market 3 weeks later. It sold in 4 days. A bidding war broke out. I sold the house for $650,000. I took the money and invested it. I didn't buy a Lamborghini. I put it into my index funds. I made my money work for me, just like Nana Eleanor would have wanted. The fallout for them was total. Dad was fired from his job. The investigation proved he had bullied 3 other employees into loaning him money. He lost his pension eligibility. Mom had to get a job as a greeter at a big box store. Tiffany had to drop out her sorority because Daddy couldn't pay the dues anymore. She's waiting tables now. And Sarah, the ex? She texted me one last time about a month after the sale. Asterisk. Hey, I saw you sold the house. Congrats. That's huge money. I was thinking, I was really immature back then. Maybe we could get a drink? Catch up. Asterisk. I didn't block her this time. I wanted to reply. I wrote, asterisk, Sarah, you like to post calling me a parasite. You broke up with me because I embarrassed you. The only thing that has changed is my bank account balance. I'm not interested in someone who only loves a balance. Asterisk. Then I blocked her. It's been 6 months now. I haven't spoken to my parents. Sometimes, late at night, I check my blocked messages folder. I see the desperate text from Dad asking for a loan. I see the guilt-tripping text from Mom about family first. But then I look at my apartment. I look at my life. I look at the peace I have built. They call me a leech. They projected their own nature onto me. They were the ones draining the host. And now that I've detached them, I've never felt healthier. The 32-year-old loser is doing just fine. And the King's Lounge? It's now a nursery for the young couple who bought the house. I think Nana Eleanor would be proud.